age not applicable to K-pop auditions anymore? Too young, too old? Well, I will be addressing all of your questions and concerns about K-pop auditions and age in this video, so keep watching till the end. At the end of the video, I will even be answering the most commonly asked question, which is what is the age range that companies are looking for nowadays? So the first question is, why are companies searching for such young trainees? I saw 8-year-olds being accepted somewhere, when there are so many more applicants in older age groups. So it's not about finding which age group has more people in it, but more so which age group actually has more potential to be a trainee, and that does happen to be the younger generation. So generally speaking, when you are younger, you have more flexibility to adapt, and you also learn things faster, which is a benefit towards the company. So when you're adapting to the trainee lifestyle and the idol lifestyle, you're more so going to get used to it faster if you are younger. Compared to when you're older, you might have a harder time adapting to these things. Let's say you've been singing one way for the longest time. Let's say you've been singing only with head voice, and the company wants you to use chest voice. Then you're going to have to switch to using more chest voice often, and that's going to be a little bit difficult if you're older and you've developed those skills already, and you're kind of stuck in that way, I guess. Now you might be thinking, Irene, that's a very specific example that you included in there. Well, it actually happens more often than not. Now let's say you entered into a company at a pretty later age, kind of like mid-20s, let's say. If the company does have plans to debut you, then they're going to think of you as more of a rush to get you prepared to debut and all of that and get you trained, whereas if you're younger, you have more time to get prepared and get yourself familiar to the lifestyle, all of those things. So yes, in short, being younger is more beneficial to the company as well as yourself. However, I feel that being older also has some benefits too. So first thing is mental health. I feel like when you're older, you're a little bit more mature, you're probably going to be more acceptable to these harsh circumstances, whereas if you're younger, you might be like, oh my god, this is so strict on me and things like that, I guess. And secondly, this is more of a lighthearted manner, but enjoying your childhood. I feel like a lot of idols that enter their company at a really younger age kind of see it as a sad thing because they didn't get to enjoy their childhood because they were training and they were kind of consumed with that rather than what a normal child would do. Now the last thing, I feel like this also goes hand in hand with maturity, but when you're older, you probably see a little bit more of reality than just chasing your dreams. So you have more of a balance between your dreams and reality, which means that you're probably going to look at the company with more of a realistic light. I feel like if you get it, you get it. If you don't, that's totally fine. But when you are older, you're probably going to confront reality a little bit more, which means that you can kind of avoid situations where you might be exploited, stuff like that. Related to that question is, does my age make me less of an investment for the company if I'm over 18? And so a lot of people lose hope when they turn 18 or maybe older than 18 just because they feel like they're too old to join a company at that point. And even if you're older than 18, let's say you debut somewhere in the 20s, you're still fine. There are so many situations where idols have debuted at the age of 25, 26. Do not fret. If you guys want, I could make a shorts video on all of the idols that have debuted at more of an older age, I guess. Let me know. Going back to the question, which includes the word investment. Companies are going to invest in you if you actually have talent and potential talent for being a trainee or for being an idol. So age really should not be the thing that you're focusing on, and you're not even going to control it either. Just because you're like, oh no, I'm too old, doesn't mean you're going to suddenly get younger. So don't worry about that. Focus more so on talent and something that you can actually improve on, something that you can actually work towards. So this person asks, can you list out all of the companies which has no age bars, please? Like age restrictions. My video 22 auditions for 2022 has all of those included, so watch that if you need more auditions, I guess. So next question, what age would you say skills peak? For example, is it better to start training younger when you're more impressionable or when you're older and you've had more time to develop? So this is a really good question because it really depends on the individual. And because this question specifically addresses training, I'm going to mention that training does not have to be at a company. You can literally do it at home and whenever you want to. Start as soon as possible, really. The earlier you start, the more time you have and probably the more growth you're going to experience. So for this question, I would say that there's no point in delaying your training, I guess, but on a general level, there are different pros and cons of, I guess, starting to train at a company at a younger age versus at an older age. And like I said, maturity versus flexibility is a big thing. The next question seems to be a quite popular one, and so it is, can you travel on your own at a young age? So I'm going to assume you're talking about when you're just going there for training, so from your home country to Korea. So I would say if you're like older than 13, yeah, you're pretty much good to go. There are some services that the airport offers. It depends on where you live really, but it's kind of like, I think like a family service, so you essentially get one person to come with you. So they essentially just direct you to your port and then kind of leave you off at the actual airplane itself, so it's like you don't get lost and things like that. But I don't think that's necessarily what you're talking about. I think you're talking about like, can you go with a family member to Korea just to ensure that you have more protection, I guess. So if they do want to come with you, let's say just for like a first few weeks of training so that you feel more support, they can, but they're probably not going to see you often because you're going to be starting training, you're going to be busy. You won't necessarily have free time to meet your family members, even if they are in Korea. So just kind of weigh out those things and make your own decision because that's nothing I can choose for you. Kind of related to that is, how are you taken care of at a young age as a trainee? So this one is pretty obvious. They have, I guess, managers for trainees. I guess the bigger the company, the more managers they have, but you really just go from the dorm to the company. There's nothing really to be taken care of. Food is provided depending on the company. You won't have to pay for anything, so there's that. Also, note that you're living with other trainees and they're probably going to be older than you, and you'll kind of like live as a group of friends almost. So you really don't need that much protection, I guess, because what's going to happen to you? What? I don't know. I can't even think of scenarios at this point. Is age a big factor for K-pop companies? So this really depends on the K-pop company, guys. So let's just look at the big three so that we don't have to discuss about every single company. But let's say SM and YG. They honestly do not mind if you're on the older side. If you look at examples like Irene or Park Bom, you'll see that they debuted at more of an older age, and they're fine with that. If you see their trainees, they're quite, I guess, not too young. Let's take JYP as an example. Even their oldest member is quite young. I would say they debuted at a quite younger age compared to companies like SM and YG. The next grammatically incorrect question. Age doesn't matter unless and until you look younger and youthful. Does age matter if you look youthful, essentially? To an extent, yes. Let's take Irene as an example again. I don't know why. It's the only example I can think of right now, but she debuted at a more later age, as I said, and was born in 1991, but she does have a youthful look. Let's say she didn't have that youthful look and she looked more, I guess, older than her age. Would she have been there? And honestly, this is true for any entertainment industry. It's sad, but it's also true. Like, let's say you show signs of aging, then you get suddenly criticized on just for that fact. So yeah. So the next question is, do young trainees have to diet when they're young? So yeah, you do have to diet. However, this is honestly to an extent, again, it depends on, I guess, how you look. And if you look skinny, then maybe you won't have to. But even in some circumstances, you still have to diet either way. But it really depends on the company. There are some companies that really don't care about dieting as long as you look, I guess, skinny and fit. So now we're going to get into the actual age range that I suggest and also look at your responses that you guys asked on the Google form or answered, I guess. So the biggest one, this video is getting long and I was just rambling on. So this is the age range essentially of who is watching my videos or who filled in the Google form. So yeah, that's the age range, 10 to 22. And honestly, my answer for what is the age range has changed. Before, I used to say 12 to 23 is usually acceptable within the K-pop industry. And it's kind of a coincidence how the age range is actually like 10 to, I think it was 20, 22, something like that. These days, I would say that it extends to even 10 to mid-20s is what I would say. So if you're in that age range, do not worry about it too much. If you're in the more so later ages, start auditioning. That's my biggest tip for you guys. Time is continuously passing as we speak right now. So go, get your butt up and please audition because this is the time. It's now or never. You could literally be 10 right now, but if you just keep making that excuse of, oh, I'm young, I still have time, you'll suddenly become 22. So yeah. A lot of you guys are always, oh man, I missed the Google form, I wanted to ask a question. You can check out my community post or my Instagram stories. If you have more suggestions of this kind of series, then let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye. Subscribe. Okay, back to filming. You did not see my pants. Please subscribe. I want to get to 100K. Bye.